First video of 2019, and I'm already disappointed in the state of the heavyweight division. It's actually getting really ridiculous, which obviously prompted me to put my thoughts down in the video because this can't continue. So where are we now? We've got two champions. Um, Joshua, obviously with three of the four, and Deontay with one, with the last Infinity Stone, holding out. And then we've got the pretenders and the contenders that come after that. So obviously there's Tyson Fury, and I'll put White in there as well. And then you've got Brazil buzzing around just purely because he's a mandatory. I can't remember who the mandatory is for the IBF. I think it's Pulev, but I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure it is Pulev. But here's the problem now. None of them believe, truly, deep down in their heart, they can beat Anthony Joshua. It's really become clear to me now. I mean, firstly, let me start with White. I've got other videos on talking about White. I'm not. I never liked Damian White from the beginning, but I'm not gonna lie, he has grown on me. He has put in work in the last couple of years, especially since Joshua starched him out. He's put in work. I can't deny his work rate. He had one iffy fight, I think, with Hellenius where he didn't look too great. I think that might have been his first fight back since his shoulder surgery. If that's the case, then I'll give him a bly. But for the most part, he's put in work. He's knocked people out. He's had tough fights. You know, Parker was an excellent fight. Both the Chisora fights were great fights. And obviously, that Brown knockout was sensational. But he's put in work. For me, he deserves a shot at the WBC ahead of Brazil. Brazil's had a title shot before, and he blew it against Joshua. So for me, I think White deserves for his first title shot. He's number one ranked. He's in the WBC. He's got the silver belt. He's done everything he can, in my opinion, especially knocking out, well, not knocking out, but beating a former world champion in Parker. That for me was like, right, you're beating a former world champion who's only champion in the last fight. You now deserve a title shot. Here's the problem. He doesn't deserve a shot at Joshua. I'm not actually interested in that Joshua White fight. Why? We've seen it already. I don't think the result's going to be any different. If anything, I think Joshua's gotten much, much better. I know White has got better. I know he keeps talking about his shoulder. But, you know, if I'm going to be horrible, he probably hurt his shoulder again when he got flattened by Joshua hanging off the bottom rope. But, all jokes aside, we've seen that fight. I don't think Joshua is going to. I don't think Joshua will be sloppy in his approach to that fight. I think Joshua is very professional where he deals with it. I don't see him being complacent. I think he will respect White, especially White's left hook. It's becoming legendary at this point. But I think Joshua trains for that, and I just think he's too tall, too long, too strong, and too good for White. And I just don't see any difference in that fight. For me, anyway, I just think he's gonna knock White out, especially since White is gonna be so desperate to want to avenge that knockout. He wouldn't want to win on points. He'll want to knock Joshua's head off, which means he's gonna have to come forward. For me, Joshua can fight either way. He can fight long. He can fight in the pocket. I don't think it makes any much difference. I think White also knows he has the knockout power because he laid him out before. I mean, he slumped him clean. Can't argue with that. So I just don't want to see that fight again. I've seen it already quite recently. It was a good fight. Obviously, it wasn't a title fight or a world title fight, but Joshua win convincingly. When you knock someone out like that, and I'm talking about slump them out clean, there's no coming back from it. There's no rematch talk. Rematches for me is if someone won on points and it was ready to be close, then you could argue, yeah, rematch. That's why I'm not so mad at the White Fury rematch. That makes more sense in terms of rematch because obviously it was inconclusive in terms of the results. I thought Fury won, clearly. I don't. Even the rounds where Wilder knocked Fury down, for me, Fury still got up and outboxed him, especially in that last round. But I can see why they want to do the rematch. So I spoke about White. For me, White is outpricing himself now. This is where the ridiculous comes into it. You've been offered, reportedly about 4 million. Forget the money. It's not about the money. You're talking about you want a world title shot, right? There's 3 belts on offer. 4 if you count the IBO as well. So there's 4 belts on offer. and you're complaining that you're not getting quite enough. And bear in mind, this is a voluntary defense offered to you by Joshua. He slumped you already, point number one. He fought you fairly recently, point number two. You bring nothing to the table. You don't have a belt. You don't have an invisible lineal title. What do you bring to the table? He's beaten you recently. I'm confused. I don't understand where you're coming with all this bluster in terms of what you deserve. If anything, you should be at the WBC's door knocking on that saying, why are you not getting Deontay? But Joshua's beating you already. What you should be doing if you're smart is you go and get the WBC. Now, once you get that WBC, because I think he can beat Deontay, I do. I think of everyone in the heavyweight division, I think White is the biggest problem for Deontay, which is why he's avoided him up till now. But you have that WBC, you're the man. You're in a position now where you know. Imagine that you're coming into that meeting and you put that WBC title on the table. You say to Josh, "I want X." He ain't gonna laugh you at the door. He needs you now. Maybe he won't give you exactly that, but it's going to be a lot more than 4 million. That's for sure. What you need to Joshua. I like Joshua's the Thanos of the heavyweight division at this moment. And he's out there collecting all those Infinity Stones. And there's one left. You think he ain't going to deal with that person that's got that last stone or that last belt? The only issue is that the only person who's got that last belt is a fucking idiot. That's the problem. He doesn't understand what power he possesses in terms of his negotiation skills. He's actually just sitting back expecting these deals to be made for him. But I'll get to Wilder in a second. But um, White needs to come to something to the table. So he's beaten you already. He's beaten you recently. You have no belts. What's going to motivate him to give you a voluntary shot at the title? You're not mandated. It's not a mandated fight. So I don't know. You need to go away, White. Come back with something, and then present it. Come back with White. Come back with Deontay's head on a platter. Throw it down at Joshua's feet and say, "I want that fight next." He'll deal with you. 100%. He'll deal with you. That's what you need to do. It's a long way. It's a convoluted way, but it's one way to guarantee Joshua's attention. Let's move on to Fury. So Fury's in this position because obviously he feels some type of way because he had the belts. Bear in mind, this guy never defended those belts. So how much of a true champion are you? You never defended those belts. It's like getting married and not consummating the marriage. In the olden days, it's not even considered a marriage until you fuck your new bride. And Fury never defended those belts. He never did right by Klitschko. For me, what Joshua done is much more impressive than Klitschko. I get it. Klitschko went to Germany and he outboxed Fury. Fine. But that was beating a Vlad who had a bad night as far as I'm concerned. It was one night. He had a bad night. He got outboxed. Fury won fair and square. I'm not denying that. But Vlad had a bad night and he never gave him an opportunity to come back at him and for Fury to prove beyond doubt that he is better. He's the better fighter out of the two by giving him that rematch, which would have been fair, but he didn't. Instead, he decided that he was going to eat wild boar and take coke and go on a drinking binge. That's what Fury did. So that was the start of his spiral because I don't think he felt that he could go and he could repeat that. In my opinion, I don't think he would have. Would he have beaten Vlad again? Probably because he was in Vlad's head. But if he had done it back to back and beaten him convincingly the second time around, or even in the same manner, people would have said, "Well, you've done it twice in a row. You are the man." Whereas Joshua went out and he beat the man who had all the belts in Vlad, and he also beat 12 champions. So he had to go through three people for those three belts. He had to have three very good nights. Whereas Fury just had to have one good night. So, yes, that's the credence that he has, which has allowed him to be parachuted into a world title fight because he's got a lineal title and invisible belts, and Wilder wanted to take his soul, Mortal Kombat style, and absorb that, and then say he is now got part of Fury in him, therefore he is the lineal champion as well as the WBC, which makes him the invisible, undisputed champion of the world, I guess, in his mind. But that was a cherry pick that went wrong. I've got another video in regards to that. That's a cherry pick that went wrong. He wanted Fury's name. He thought this guy come off the couch would be an easy touch. And yeah, he found out the hard way that weren't the case. So Fury's an interesting one because Joshua said, get fit and I'll fight you. That's the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing at this moment in time, even bigger than Joshua Deontay, in my opinion, even though that will probably be stateside at some point for a rematch. I think Fury Joshua is the bigger fight. I think the British audience are much more into their boxing at this moment in time, and I think they will turn up, and the pay-per-views will be absolutely bananas. If there was to fight tomorrow, it wouldn't surprise me if it was more than 2.5 to 3 million pay-per-views. I think with relative ease. It will definitely eclipse Joshua Klitschko, which I think was about 1.5. Easy. I would not be surprised if it doubled that. Because if one thing, even though Fury doesn't have belts, if one thing he does bring is fanatical fans. You could see how they packed out the Barclays Center. Reportedly, there was about 8,000 of them in a 21,000 seater that wasn't sold out. So, what, 40% of them are Fury fans coming over from little old England and Ireland to watch the Gypsy King. I mean, that's powerful. So that you put bums on seats and he will shift pay-per-view. Just the build up alone will sell. So Fury, for me, yes, he deserves to be in and around. Coming in straight away, that's a bit harsh, but it's extenuating circumstances, so I can allow that. But again, he's now talking about 40%, 50-50, or flat fee. You'll get an opportunity to win back what you claim is yours. And bear in mind, this guy talks like money is not an issue. He's not fighting for money because he reportedly gave away all that Deontay money, right? So, and I don't believe that for 1 second. But let's say he did, then you clearly are not motivated by money. So then why are you making this difficult in terms of coming up with a ridiculous opening bid in terms of wanting it to be 50-50? You didn't even get 50-50 with Deontay, but you want 50-50 with Joshua. Yet again, you come to the table with nothing other than invisible belts and a lot of banter at this moment in time. And that's my problem with Fury. I would love to see that fight next. I understand wanting to rematch Deontay again and settle that. But if you have an opportunity to fight Joshua now for 3 belts, why would you care about the 1 belt Wilder's got? That's just what I don't understand. You're getting an opportunity at these belts. I'll come to my conclusion as to why I think they're all doing this, but let me go through to Deontay now. So we've got this idiot who's been holding this belt hostage for how many years? Was doing nothing with it. He had it. It was a nice little trinket. He held it on his shoulder. He gave it a name. He toured Alabama with it. And then this fucking guy from England has now come up through the rankings, knocking everyone out up until this point, and has now snatched one of your PBC stablemate. A belt that if you got 50 million to give Joshua, why would you get 5 million to give to Martins? And this is the difference between Joshua and the rest of these guys now. Martin got paid more for the Joshua fight than Joshua did. Why? Because Joshua made a calculated risk in terms of, I'll forego the money now for glory now, and I'll get the money later. And that is the attitude that the rest of these contenders/pretenders should be having. Their attitude should be of course they should get paid. I mean, they got mouths to feed and bills to pay. I get that. But especially in White's situation, someone's offering you 4 million odd, you take it. But it's not the 4 million; it's the potential. It's the opportunity of greatness in terms of getting all those belts. That is what you're giving up. Is that not why you stepped in the boxing ring? For that glory, for the opportunity to get a world title. I understand slightly why Beyonce is not as motivated because he already has a world title. He's been a world champion for how many years? 3 going on 4 years, I think now. And he's defended that, I don't know, 8 times or whatever. He's got one of them. So whatever happens, you can't take that away from him. He's been a world champion. He's defended it. I'm looking at you, Fury. He's defended it. And, you know, but he claims he wants to be undisputed. One face, one name, one champion, or whatever it is that he says. So he's going against his own mantra in not taking that Joshua fight when good money's being thrown at him. But the Colby, actually, let's throw Miller into this as well. So he's got a big mouth, and I think that'll be an interesting fight, Joshua Miller, because I think Miller's work rate will give Joshua issues in the earlier rounds. But I think ultimately he'll figure him out, and he will he'll do very similar to what he did against Povetkin, where he made the adjustments on the fly and then he executed them. And for me, Joshua is the best finisher in the heavyweight division. I can't think of too many times where someone's been in trouble and he's not got them out of there. I think maybe Kevin Johnson, Kingpin Johnson, actually, but I think the bell saved him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure actually. Yeah, he damn well got knocked through the ropes, and then the bell went, and then obviously he finished him off in the next round. But I can't think of too many people that Joshua's got hurt with plenty of time to go anyway, and not gotten him out of there. So for me, he's the best finisher. He has knockout power. He doesn't have one punch power as such, in terms of in the way Deontay does. But now, looking at Deontay's last couple of fights, I'm starting to question this power anyway. Don't get me wrong, he's still strong, but is it as devastating as they're trying to make out that it is? Well, he didn't knock out Ortiz. Fatigue killed Ortiz, and he didn't knock out Fury. I mean, Fury got up, so I mean, how devastating could that knockout be? But maybe that's for another video, or I need to see another fight where I can basically come back and maybe say my claim was right or wrong. But anyways, Miller's got a big mouth. He talks a lot of talk, talks a lot of crap, English muffin, blah blah blah, all this nonsense, running, pushing up on Joshua and all these things. You now have an opportunity for greatness, and you wanna start talking about money. You've been offered more money than you probably made collectively in your whole career. That alone should be enough for you to say, yeah, I'm happy to take it. I'm happy to take it. But here's the thing: everybody's happy. Everybody wants to face Joshua and they get the call, and then they want retirement money. That's the ploy everyone's using now. To the public's face and on other YouTube channels and on the media outlets, they're like, yeah, I want to face Joshua. It's not about the money. It's a legacy and one face, one name, one champion, and he's a chicken and all these. You get the call from Eddie or Joshua, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, whatever you're offering, double it. Or, oh, is it this percentage? Or okay, well, put on another 20% on that. And that's what we got to now, where the realization hit me. Joshua is the boogeyman of the division. And each one of those fighters I just mentioned have a different reason, but collectively, none of them believe that they can beat him. That's actually that's the realization that's hit me now. None of them believe that they can beat him. Because if they did, they'll take that money and they'll knock him out, they'll take those belts, and then they become Anthony Joshua, and the guy that everybody wants to fight. They should then be able to sell at 100,000 seaters. They should then be able to make 20, 30, 40 million per fight. But deep down, they don't believe that they can beat him. And it's different for every one of them. Wilder's reason is he's talked so much shit over the last 18 months or so. He knows that he cannot get knocked out by Joshua, because that's the end of him. If he got slumped by Joshua the same way Joshua knocked out White, for instance, and he blew him away early on. Which if they fought tomorrow, for me, Joshua beats Wilder in 4 rounds, 4 or 5 rounds tops. And if he laid him out, Wilder can't recover from that because all that bluster, all that talk, all that shit that he was chatting, he hasn't been able to back it. And the realization just hit me now. He's prepared to sell his L to Fury because losing to Fury is not dangerous in the terms of knockout. I don't think he ever thinks he can get knocked out by Fury. He knows that he can be outboxed because the guy can't box. Wilder can't box at all. He's a shit boxer. And he knows that Fury is an elite boxer in a technical sense. And I think he can almost accept being outboxed by Fury while still claiming that he was in a fight and he was robbed. I think he could, like, let's say for instance now, had he had lost the fight that they just had, which he damn well thought he had, you could see it on his face at the end. He could pick up the mic and say, "Ah man, I didn't lose that," Broner style basically, and save your little face, and you can say, "Look at my face, I look good," whatever, you know. And you go back to Joshua. He knows he lost, but he can still talk that talk about how he didn't lose and how he wants a rematch, and we could do it again. If Joshua and Wilder fight, it's not going to points either way. Wilder's very capable of knocking out Joshua. I don't doubt that. He's dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I just think if they fought tomorrow, 9 out of 10 times Joshua beats him. But boxing's a funny old game. You only need one lucky looping punch, and it changes everything. White has another reason now, so I'm moving on to reason as to why. White thinks he's better than what he is. He thinks Joshua has stood still while he's gotten better. Now, Joshua's gotten better at a faster rate than White has. If White was a 6 at the time and he's gone up 2 or 3 levels, then Joshua's gone up 4 or 5 levels in that time. Why? Because he's been fighting better caliber fighters. He's been fighting mandatories and champions, and he's got through it relatively unscathed. And for me, Joshua listens to his corner. And I look at all of Joshua's fights. I know people go on about the Parker fight and how boring it was. For me, that was the coming of age in terms of, is Joshua likely to go on to become a Hall of Famer for me? Because that was the fight where he executed a game plan to perfection. Look at the difference between his fight against Parker and White's fight against Parker. Don't get me wrong, that was obviously a more exciting fight. There was more knockdowns. But White did not follow the plan, especially in the last round. Why he got involved when he had the game won, had the fight won. You're not going to catch Joshua doing that. Joshua is not, if the fight is won, Joshua knows he's won this fight. He's not going to engage in a slugfest with a minute to go. He wouldn't have done that, especially if you're knackered as well, which White clearly was. But that's just how White is, and that's fine. That's what makes him exciting, and the fans that like White like that side of him. But Joshua's going to be safety first, win the fight. Yes, if he can knock a guy out and he senses that and he smells blood, for real, he's going to knock this guy out. But the Parker fight, he won, again, for me, he won easily 7-8 of those rounds. Comfortably, and I'm being really generous here to Parker to give him even, 4-5 rounds. For me, Joshua comfortably won pretty much 7, 8, 9 rounds easily. So he was in no danger. And that was a fight for me where I could see that he was working on the things that he had learned in the gym and the culmination of what he learned in other fights. It was all starting to come together for me. I could see it. That was the first fight where he wasn't forcing a knockout. He was fighting behind his jab. And I think that was in preparation for future fights. I'm sure, Hearn and Joshua are very clever in the way they fight. They know, they have a rough idea, a rough roadmap of where they're going to go. So, yes, they're going to fight who's in front of them then, but they also have to think who could potentially be next and who could be after that. So for me, Joshua was very clever with how he fought Parker because he's thinking about, right, everyone knows that I have a great finish, I possess a lot of power, but how will they deal with me using an attribute of mine that I don't use often enough in terms of fighting on the back foot behind that jab. You know, I don't think. I think Parker was trying to get in Joshua's head to get him to come inside, and that's where Parker would obviously negate the reach and the height that Joshua has and the strength that he has. But Joshua didn't fall for that. You know, he knew that by them going on about he's cheating and whatnot, which is unfounded, but they wanted him to come in with a rush of blood, angry, to prove, Amir Khan style that he can stand with the best. That's my problem with Amir Khan. As soon as he gets hit, instead of getting on his bike or holding or taking a knee or, being clever in the fact that you're buzzed, he will try and sit in that pocket and try and slug it out to prove that he's a tough man when he's not. But anyway, we'll get to Khan on another day when we get close to the Crawford fight. But that's why I'm impressed with Joshua. That was why that was one of my most. That was one of, for me, Joshua's most impressive fights. It was one of his most boring fights. There weren't much action, but from a purely technical boxing sense, that for me was the fight where I was like, right, he can do that. He can change his style. He's not just a headhunter as such. He can box, And I know he's been able to box and, he's been nice beforehand, but that was the fight where I was like, yes, he can do it. He can revert to that style where a fight is safely in the bag. He's won, the first six of, the 8 rounds, and now he's just seeing out the championship rounds. Then he can revert to fighting on the back foot of fighting long and sitting behind the jab, and I know he can do that comfortably. So for me, that was a really good fight in terms of confirming Joshua's true boxing abilities. Fury's quite interesting because he comes across as someone who's not really that interested in money, and part of me believes him, but at the same time, money is money, isn't it? You if someone's throwing ridiculous amount of cash at you, you're gonna want to take it and you want to make as much of it as you can. But again, Fury's been chatting so much shit about Joshua. He's so jealous of Joshua because he thinks he should be Joshua in terms of the adulation that he's been getting, the stadiums he's filling, the fan base that he has. He thinks that he should be that guy because he never got that homecoming when he beat Wilder. But to be honest, most people didn't think he was going to beat. Sorry, not Wilder, Vlad. And most people probably didn't think he was going to beat Vlad because I don't think he was a favourite. But he didn't get that homecoming. Yeah, he won, and I was surprised. I didn't even stay up to watch it, but I was, people were surprised, and he didn't get that love and that warmth that he probably felt that he deserved. Part of it's his own fault because he's got a big mouth and he talks a certain way, and that rubs people up the wrong way. And some people don't forget, regardless of what your accomplishments are, they will still always remember that you made a homophobic comment or you made a anti-Muslim comment or whatever it is that's rubbed people up the wrong way. He's done these things, and people have long memories, and sometimes just winning a world title is not going to be enough for people to forget these things. But he's been chatting so much shit about AJ as well. He can't lose to him. This is the thing. They've been chatting so much shit that they can't lose to this guy. They want someone else. They prefer someone else took their L. And then trust me, had he lost to Wilder, he'll want that Joshua fight regardless now because he's got that L. It doesn't matter now. And as for the last contender / pretender, Miller, again, he's been chatting so much shit. But for me, Miller will be more okay with it. He'll take that loss. He'll be laughing to the bank, and he'll probably be thinking, wow, I don't know how I managed to talk myself into a world title fight, fighting absolutely nobody. But the fact that he's potentially got an opportunity to fight a world title fight, he should be taking pretty much whatever's been offered. As long as the way Joshua looks at it, and which is how it should be, is what is that person bringing to the table? If they're bringing a world title, that holds value, but there's only one other guy that has one. Or they have a massive fan base who's going to buy the pay-per-views or fill the stadium. If we're fighting in the US, then I don't know how big a fan base Miller has. I mean, did he not struggle to fill a stadium in Kansas not too long ago? I mean, wasn't there only a couple thousand people there tops? If he does fill out wherever it is that they fight, you know, a large part of that has to be because people want to understand who this Anthony Joshua guy is about, more rather than wanting to see Miller, because he's never filled that stadium on himself by himself like that. So, but Miller, he should take what's offered to him. Um, he'll be game, but I think Joshua's athleticism and pure boxing skill and his height and his strength and his youthness will prevail. And I see Miller getting stopped. I think once Joshua starts teeing off on him, don't get me wrong, Miller's tough and he's a big lump. But I think once Joshua's figured him out and he's dealt with his pressure, because he will come with that pressure early on, I think Joshua will just sit behind his jab and just literally jab this guy's head off. And then once he gets those openings, then he'll take him out. But if they do fight and it's all set in stone, then I'll do a whole separate sort of preview on that with my thoughts. But that's just a little sort of taste of what I believe will probably go on to happen. I think the biggest threat to Joshua is Fury, but I think once Joshua is in the ring with Fury, and yeah, I think he's going to be a bit baffled because I think Fury's very hard. Boxers like to be in a rhythm, right? And I think Fury's very good at breaking the other fighter's rhythm because he's not very conventional when he's got that herky jerky style, and he feints like a motherfucker a lot. So he is gonna throw you off. But I think once you realise this guy's got hands for pillows, timing don't mean shit, because if you're not worried about this guy being able to knock you out with one punch or two punches, then you can afford to let off three to take two. And I think that's how it will move with Joshua. And also think back to the 11th round with against Vlad. Joshua, I think he was suspected he was behind on the cards, so he was like, I don't want this to go to the cards. I'm gonna have to knock this guy out, which is how Fury should have been against Wilder. He's in the United States against someone the WBC had been protected all these years. He should have gone for it, especially since I felt that Wilder was there to be got at. But back to Joshua and Fury, I think once Joshua realizes that Fury does not have that power to scare me, I think he just jumps on Fury. I think Fury will be winning on the cards at that point, but I think Joshua would jump on him. And if he knocks him down and gets up, Undertaker style, that's great, that's fine. Wilder had like another 2 minutes left or a minute and a half of that fight, and he didn't pressure him. You think Joshua's going to let him off the hook for over a minute? No way. He's got enough time to finish him. He will finish him. But just to finish this all up, because it's all gone on for a bit long, but I understand now why Vladimir took the mandatory route. You just get the fights get called. It's just a split, 70-30 split, and that's it. There's no guys queuing up, cap in hand, trying to negotiate ridiculous funds because they see that as a way just to get paid before they get laid out or lose. I can see now why he took the mandatory route. Before he was I was all he ever does is fight mandatories, and I get it now. I understand now, because if you're going to reach out to someone to offer them an opportunity to win X amount of belts, and then the sticking point for them is they're not getting paid enough, even though you're offering them more money than they've ever made before. That for me just tells you exactly what my problem is with the heavyweight division now. Everyone in that division don't believe that they can beat Joshua. It's as simple as that. They don't truly, deep down in their heart, they don't believe they can beat Joshua. So therefore, they want to get paid. They want to get paid. They want to get retirement money in the case of Wilder, or they want to get overpaid in the case of Miller and White, and Fury, for the pleasure of losing their L. Well, not for White, because Joshua's only beating him, but that's why White's claims are even more ridiculous, because you're making these claims to a guy who's offering you an opportunity to win belts voluntarily when he's already slumped you. It don't make sense. But yeah, if you agree or disagree, let me know.